there, everybody. Welcome to your official Chris and Christine Show bonus episode.
It's a bonus. Woo-hoo.
The bonus round. We haven't done one of these in a long time.
I know, but we had such a great occasion to celebrate, and it's not going to be a short bonus episode. It's like a full length.
It is?
Yep.
Wow, I better clear my schedule then.
Yes, sir, you do.
Well, thank you for listening to this official bonus episode. And today on this bonus round,
we are going to share with you all the fun details of the first ever family vacation.
Family road trip vacation, Road Trip 2020.
Yep, and we put some miles on Ruby Red, Ruby Ride, and broke her in.
Your new car.
My new car.
Christine's brand new 2020 Ford Explorer, ruby red color, named Ruby.
Yep, we named her Ruby.
Big enough for everybody to fit in with luggage. It was tight, though, because we did have, myself, Christine, Jacob, Mason, and Ezekiel all in the car with all of our luggage for an entire week.
Yeah, well, I think it was 5 days total. We took off on Sunday. We returned on Thursday. But we are going to share all of the ups and downs, all of the fun and everything that we did. And I first would like to say that we know that not everybody's in a position to take a long family vacation, but we were very economical with this trip, and we're going to share some of those tips along the way as we tell you about the fun.
That is great.
Yep.
So as we record this right now, today happens to be Saturday.
Yep.
And it is the last weekend of our family, well, actually of both of ours vacation.
Right, until November when we go to Hawaii.
Right. Well, actually, I think I have a vacation October booked.
Yeah, just a couple days, I think.
No, I have a full week, I believe, booked in October. I think I do. I'm pretty sure I do. I have to look and double check.
Okay.
But this week, I always take a week off in July because I know for a fact that the kids are always off in the month of July. I'm not sure about June because I know in June they got some school. And I know in August, towards the tail end of August, they got some school. But for July, I know July is always available to book vacation. And because some other drivers at work that have more seniority than I do, they always pick the week of 4th of July.
Right.
So, or around that. So I take whatever week is available in July, which happens to be this week.
Right. And I typically take a couple of weeks during the summer because I get a limited number of recess days. That's what we call them. They're not vacation days. They're non-duty days. So the way that it works for me is I'm contracted for a certain number of days. And then those days that I don't work, our pay gets divided between 12 months. So it's not technically vacation. They just call them off-duty days.
But you're off from work, so you get time off.
Right. Yeah. So I scheduled mine around Chris's and also went around the time when we knew that Ezekiel would be with us. And so Zeke went home today to his dad. He's been with us for a full month, which was super fun to have all of the boys together. I love it. I love having the crazy house, even though they drive me absolutely batty sometimes.
Oh my goodness.
3 boys in the house. But last Sunday, so Sunday, almost a week ago, we set out on our adventure of a lifetime. And so we kicked it off with everybody hopping into Ruby Ride.
What time did we leave on Sunday? Do you remember?
Well, we were supposed to leave at 9 a.m.
And what time did we actually leave?
10 o'clock.
Well, it's only an hour off. No big deal.
Yeah, things were getting forgotten. You know, if you don't know this about Chris, he gets super edgy when it's time to get ready to go on a vacation.
What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, it's because I pack my bag like super late. Is that what it is? Like I pack at the very last minute?
Yeah, and I talked with him about it all week long because I had the kids and everything was stacked and in the downstairs ready to go. And I said to Chris, we're going to be ready to go by 9 a.m. and the kids and I are going to be ready to go. You haven't packed. Are you sure you don't want to do it? No, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll take care of it later.
So I started off, the kids were so excited they could barely sleep. So they woke up early and the little ones forgot a few things over at their mom's house. And so what I did is...
Oh, that's right, huh?
Yeah, while Chris was getting ready, having his morning routine, packed the kids up in the car, drove them over. I picked them up Starbucks because they really wanted Starbucks. And we went and got their Lego cases to take on the trip with us.
Right. So the kids and everybody packed up. So by the time 10 o'clock came around, we were really rolling out. But before we did that, we made a side trip up to another part of town because Christine bought a few more what was it?
Masks. Well,
face masks.
Well, I got these custom face masks. So shout out to Eru Custom. So it's EROO Custom. You can find him on Instagram. And he makes these great masks. They have a built-in little metal nose bridge, but they have a 3D design so they don't suck to your face. And so
when you're breathing, you're not constantly like rubbing your mouth against the fabric. There's a little bit of a gap to it,
right?
Kind of like the way those big like carpenter masks, like those big like construction masks people wear. Kind of like those ones.
So I'd found him on Instagram. A friend of a friend had posted about loving hers, and so I got mine. But there was a different design I wanted, so picked those up right before we left town from Poway. And then we were setting out on the road, right, Chris?
Heading north to fabulous Las Vegas.
Yep. That was the first stop on our trip.
For our first... Oh, before we get there, we were getting kind of hungry. So we pulled over to the famous... I think it's kind of like... It's the halfway point? I think it's the halfway point to Vegas.
No, but it was even before that. So on our way to go get the masks, we're getting off the freeway, driving to go get the masks. Chris happens to see off to the right-hand side... Krispy Kreme donuts.
That's right, Krispy Kreme donuts, and they all closed down. Well, most of them closed down around town. So when I see a new Krispy Kreme donut shop, I'm like super excited because I haven't had those in years.
Yep.
I said, Christine, we got to hit that place up on the way out of here. So as soon as we left, got the mask, we headed back to the freeway. We whipped in the drive-thru, got some donuts, and they were amazing.
Were they amazing, Chris?
They were fantastically amazing.
He opens the box and was supposed to have a cream-filled one, but they changed the way that they looked.
Yeah, what's up with that, man?
Yeah, they changed the way the cream-filled donuts looked, and so Chris opens it up and he's like, "This isn't what we ordered. This isn't what we ordered." And so I like pull over the car, pull in the parking lot, and I'm like, "Chris, it's the one that has the cream drizzle on top of it." And he's like, "No. This is not the cream.
It's not the Krispy Kreme that I know of.
And I was like,
know and love.
Well, they're only open through the drive-thru, and it's really long. He's like, we're not going back through. Forget it. Everybody else, you have your donuts.
I'll just eat whatever. I'll eat whatever. But it was the thing. I didn't know this, but the Krispy Kreme, the original cream filled, it used to be look like a cream filled, like a disc, jelly filled, like a a jelly filled,
like a solid donut,
right. That's what it used to look like
a little bubble.
Mm-hmm. Now. Somehow
it looks like a regular glazed donut.
Right, a regular circle donut with a hole
in the middle.
Hole in the middle, but inside the actual part when you eat, there's cream inside.
But not as much cream.
Maybe.
Right? It didn't like it. You like it when it's like gushy.
It was good. It tasted great. It was fantastic. So we hit the road, head to Vegas. Before we get to Vegas, we're getting hungry. So we find a place to eat. And the problem is now in California, you cannot go inside. So every single drive-thru was an impossible, and I mean impossible, line to get through.
Well, at the time you could eat inside, but you had to have social distancing. They preferred takeout.
Not Saturday. Sunday you couldn't, right?
Yeah, the rules didn't change again until. Oh wait, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Because I don't know, it's so back and forth.
Right.
It's so back and forth in California. Right. It's so back and forth.
It's a yo-yo with the rules around here in California. Nobody really knows what's going on.
Right. So the drive-ins were packed, and so we found this short one, and it was at a place called Fat Burger.
But it was short, but really, we get there and the lady says...
We pull into the drive-thru.
Yeah, we pull into the drive-thru and the lady says it's going to be a 30-minute wait.
She goes, it's going to be a 30-minute wait for your food. Is that okay? I go, no.
So Christine decides to I'm just going to pull forward, right? But then she realized everybody in front of her is still stopped waiting for 30 minutes for their food.
Right.
So I said, Christine, we're going to go through this drive-thru and not order anything for 30 minutes? Are you nuts?
So I pulled back to the drive-thru window and the kids are hungry. Chris is hungry. We're like on the border of being hangry. And I'm like, fine, we're just going to order this food. So I had to back up, but somebody had already kind of edged up behind me. Luckily, they backed up, placed our order, and we proceeded to wait in the drive-thru for 30 minutes. Right, Chris?
Oh, yeah. 30 minutes in the drive-thru. Then once we got the food, we got on the road and we headed to Vegas. And I don't know if we stopped for gas at that point. I don't think we did. I think we made it all the way there.
No, we went straight through.
Straight through, all the way to Vegas.
One tank.
We stayed at the fabulous Caesar's Palace.
Yep.
So we get into Vegas, we get onto the Strip, which is weird because we get onto the Strip and I noticed something. It was not as busy.
It was empty.
I wouldn't say it was quite empty, but it was definitely a lot less people because we were just cruising down the strip. It was not normal stop and go like it usually is. It was kind of just cruising to the next light, got a green light, cruise to the next light, no big deal. And we get in, we had to figure out where to park.
Right.
Because that was the thing. They don't do valet anymore.
Well, they did valet, but their front valet was full. So then they directed us around to the back. So then we have to go all the way around to the Coliseum.
That's what it was.
And we had to navigate around. And so they take our stuff. They empty out the car and they say they'll take it up to the room. And then we proceed to go through
check-in.
The casino, and we're walking through, and there's people, everybody's wearing their masks for the most part. And then we get ready to go into the hotel check-in line, and there's this metal detector looking
Right,
thing.
it looked like we're at the airport.
Right, it looked like a metal detector, but it was a temperature gauge, and
Of some sort. I don't know what it was, but
so you had to stand 5 or 10 feet away from it, and it checks your temperature. But then for the little ones, they have to use the temperature gun before you could even go to the check-in counter to get your room.
But if you remember though, that was only for people staying at the hotel, which was weird because lots of people, you walk into the casino,
right,
and they don't check nothing.
Right,
you can do whatever you want, and they say mask required. In fact, they actually had a few kiosks handing out free masks, the temperature, the temporary ones.
Yeah, the disposable ones.
The disposable ones that you could use. They had those out there, and hand sanitizer pumps everywhere you wanted to go. So that was fine. But once we checked in, we got to our room. I tried to ask for an upgrade. They did not give us one. I took whatever, and then we
Well, okay, but we were getting ready to check in. And then I was confirming that it was a room with 2 queen beds plus a couch. And they're like, no, there's no couches in our room. And I said, but it has it on the description. The lady was like, no, none of our rooms have couches. They have chaises. She said they might have a chaise, like a chaise lounge.
Oh, right.
And I was like, no, but the description said a couch. And I said in the photo, even on the website. And she's like, well, can you show it to us? So then Chris is at the counter trying to go through his emails, can't find it, and I can't find it in mine, but I know that it was there because I would not book a room that would not sleep all 5 of us comfortably. So the lady pulls out a picture from their picture book, and she's like, so you see here, it has the 2 beds, but only some of our rooms have a chaise. And the picture was of a couch. And I'm like, see, even in your picture, it has a couch.
Yeah, that's right.
She's like, well, go check in your room and we'll see if it's there.
Yeah, so go to a room and see.
Right, but the room was perfect.
Yeah, the room had the couch like we wanted.
And pool view, the kids loved it and they freaked out.
Oh, yeah, looking downstairs. What floor were we on? Like a 33rd floor?
No, that was at the last one. We were on like the 41st floor
or 61st floor
or something, 66 or something.
It was a good view. It had a good view of the pool and everything. It was right down there. But the problem was we found out right away, because when you go to your room, the first thing you do is you call for your luggage.
Right.
So we go grab the phone and we're trying to get the thing to work. And it
didn't work.
It didn't. It was a cordless phone in the hotel room, and the one in the bathroom was also a cordless phone, and it was not working. And we're picking the battery in and out of that stupid thing, and we're trying to figure out how.
And it's like signaling low battery, and it's like, how are we going to get our freaking luggage if the hotel phone won't work? So
yeah, what are you supposed to do? Bang the thing around?
So I had to put on my mask, grab the hotel key, go down by the elevator, and call for the bags and for them to be brought up. And then by the time the bags get up, it's now 5:15 p.m. and the pool has augmented hours now for extra sanitation, so it closed at 5 p.m.
And that's the reason why we left so early was to get there to use the pool.
And the poor kids, they were like looking at it and it looked so enticing, and we were just wishing. And so the guy with the bags came up and he said, oh no, it's open until 6 tonight, I think, but let me call to make sure. And the kids were getting all excited, and he called. Sure enough, they were closing early at 5 for whatever, extra maintenance or whatever.
Horrible.
So then we were like, okay, let's make the most of this. Let's figure out what we're going to do for dinner. And then what happened, Chris?
For dinner?
Yeah.
I don't
We started
remember.
hunting for a restaurant.
That's right. Yeah, we were looking around everywhere to find a place to eat, and a lot of places were closed.
Yeah.
I mean, the food court had normally they had maybe 10, I think, places, but only maybe 3 of them were open.
Right. And one was pizza, pizza or burgers, which we'd already had in the preceding couple of meals. And the kids were like, we don't really want that. So then we had to venture out. It was 112 degrees. We had to venture out to find something outside of the casino because there was nothing inside. We found one restaurant and we were looking at it, but it was like $30 a plate, and there's 5 of us.
Right. Do the math on that.
Right. Our first dinner of vacation, we're looking at dropping, with tax and tip over $200. Not going to happen.
Right. We're just looking for something simple to eat, because right now, if you don't know, the buffets are all closed.
Right.
Normally, we would probably go to a buffet or something. Even those get kind of expensive too, really. But those were closed too, and then a lot of the other smaller places were kind of closed, like a lot of the quick bite places you would think of. They were closed.
So we left the casino and we went across the street to the outside promenade near the Link Hotel. It was in between Link and Flamingo.
It's called the Link. I think it's called the Link like mall or something. Like it's the Link. It's a spot between Flamingo, the Link, across from Caesar's Palace.
And so we walk into this outdoor mall area, and it's so hot, but we were like toughing it out.
And it's even hotter when you gotta wear those stupid masks.
Right. And the kids are being champs, but they had like security checking when you walked into that area on both sides to make sure you had masks on. And so we started to hunt for a restaurant, and Chris saw Margaritaville, and he's like, perfect, we're going to go to Margaritaville. And we were like, yes, kids will have great food. We'll have some fantastic margaritas. And he walks inside, and they tell us that it's going to be like an hour wait.
Oh, man. And it's getting close to 8 o'clock at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, it's it's like 7 already, and we're thinking it's going to get super late. So we walk further down, and I remembered last time I took Zeke to Vegas, there was this Mexican restaurant where he really liked the tacos. And so we decided to check in there, and they said it was going to be a 30-minute wait. We put in our name and went next door to get a soda from the little bakery next door. And it was like maybe 10, 12 minutes, and we got our seat, right?
Yeah, that was pretty good. Although it was not cheap. I must admit. I mean, most places were not, because most of the places that were open for business were super expensive.
Right. They were super expensive. And so after dinner, little Mason was about to fall asleep, and he just wanted to go back. And so we decided to split up the party because Ezekiel really wanted to go on the big zip line at the Link. And I told him, I'd promised him that we could take him. And so Chris took back the littles and got them ready for bed. I don't know if they showered or anything. And I took Zeke. And
no, they did not. No.
And he went up this really tall zip line. I checked him in, went all the way up there, and then went down and waited for him for 30 minutes. And it like flies over this outdoor mall, and it's really high, really, really high. And he was so excited.
Well, there you go. That was fun. The little guys could not do it. They didn't weigh enough. You have to weigh a certain weight because to make sure you can make it. The pulley pulls you all the way down to the bottom. You get stuck on the thing.
Right. And there's like 5 people that go at one time on 5 different lines. And so it was pretty fun to watch. And he was really excited about that. And then he and I walked back over and got back to the hotel room. And we got the kids all to bed. And then I decided to go take a bath. And I asked Chris to just kind of keep me company in the bathroom. And I'm getting out of the bathtub, and we're walking back out into the hotel room because, kids go to bed earlier. And Chris is like, what's that noise? And I was like, what are you talking about? Nothing. And he's like, no. What's that noise? And he like swings open the bathroom door. And what did you find?
I don't remember. Tell me.
What did you find Ezekiel doing?
Oh, he was walking outside.
He
I think he was looking for somebody or looking for us. And he decided to like try to walk outside the hotel room.
Right. But when I approached him and I said, Bubba, what are you doing? He goes, like I couldn't understand him. And then I looked at him and I was like, he's sleepwalking. But he had undone this. It was a broken deadbolt in the room.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Unlocked the door and opened it and was walking out into the hotel hallway at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, sleepwalking in the middle of the night.
And he doesn't know what room he's in.
Right.
And all the rooms look the same. So he doesn't have a key or nothing. So I don't know what he's going to do. But
yeah.
But didn't Mason also get sick that same evening?
Before that, yeah. Before the bathtub.
I thought that's what you were going to say, that Mason. You're talking about kids earlier.
So we got back, and Mason was hanging out and getting ready for bed. And then all of a sudden, he jumps up and runs into the bathroom. And he said he's going to be sick. And I sent Chris in there. And after like 2 minutes of Mason puking, Chris was like,
I can't take it anymore. Nope. I can't. I gotta get. I am sensitive to that kind of stuff. So I can't. I cannot be there for him to be pukezilla.
Poor baby. And he's like, it's okay. I can handle it. And so I was in there with him, and got the wet washcloth, and I'm wiping off his head. And so finally, he felt fine. It was just, we think, just a little too much sugar. He had a sweet drink at dinner, and he'd had a couple of Skittles. And typically, Jacob and Mason don't eat a lot of sugar at all. And we've been breaking Ezekiel of it too. But Mason specifically, when he eats too much, it does make him sick. And so he was fine. He laid down, he went to sleep. And then I took my bath, and I'd bought some bath supplies at one of the little gift shops. Chris bought me these unicorn bath bombs.
And don't forget a unicorn, like a rubber ducky or something.
Yeah, it looks like a little rubber ducky.
Oh, she's holding it right now. Check that. Yeah. You can't see this, but I'm looking at it. She's holding it up right now. It's got a little, rainbow around the thing and everything.
Yeah, it's super cute. So that's when we found Zeke walking out into the hallway. And so I led Zeke back to bed. And then I tried to cover him up, and he's like, why are you covering me up? And then he was like awake. but he was safe in bed. Because I know my mom has taught me before that when you encounter a sleepwalker, don't wake them up and don't startle them because they can
Really?
get violent.
Well,
yeah.
I would like, snap, let's go.
Nope.
Get
you
up.
just have to like guide them back. Zeke had no recollection of it the next morning.
So we had to actually put the chair from like the lounge chair they keep in the hotel room on the door.
Yeah,
So
like
he-
prop it up underneath so that he couldn't open it.
So if he tries to walk that way, he'll trip over that thing and hit his face or something. But anyway,
No, he would have to. He would have to mess with it enough that he would get discouraged and go back to bed. So, anyways, we slept, kind of slept that night, and then woke up the next morning early so we could feed the kids and get them to the pool.
that's right. Did we feed the kids? What did we feed them for breakfast? I don't remember.
We went to this restaurant and it was called the Cafe Americano, and it was right near the entrance.
Yeah, right by the lobby where that famous fountain is in the very lobby of Caesar's Palace. There's a little restaurant right next to that.
Right.
And that is where we had breakfast.
Yep, and we had a great breakfast, and it cost a great amount of money.
It did. It
and
did.
just
Food-
as much as dinner.
You know, food is probably the most expensive thing we spent on this entire trip,
Right.
if we think about it. Of all the things we spent money on.
Yep. And so then we wanted to get to the pool because it opened at 9 and we wanted to get there as soon as possible. So we went and got in the line by 9:15.
Line.
Right.
Just to get into the pool.
So the pool opened at 9. We did get into the line by 9:15. And about how long did we end up having to wait in line just to be admitted into the pool
I think
area?
it was like an hour or something.
Yeah, it was an hour and 15 minutes.
Hour and 15 minutes. My goodness.
So then I had to step out of line and call the front desk and ask for an extended checkout because at this point we're faced with
right. We were checking
checking out at 11.
Yeah, we were checking out that same day. So here we are thinking we can get to the pool before checkout, real quick kind of thing for the kids.
Because the whole purpose of staying at Caesar's Palace was because of the pool.
The entire reason we stayed there was for the pool.
Right. So the guy in guest services was really nice and he said, I can extend you complimentary until 1. If you think you're going to be longer than that, then you'll have to pay and you can check out by 4. And I said, just do the 4 o'clock and we'll be out before that. If we get out by 1, can we get our money back? And he said, absolutely. So we went into the pool area and it was so cold in the pool and it was so hot outside.
I don't know how they do, but the pool was ice cold.
But it was so beautiful.
Of course, yeah. Have you ever seen the Caesar's Palace pool? It's got these fountains, and it looks like Rome, I guess, with the whole pillars and
Greece,
the what
Rome, something like that.
Right,
yeah,
right.
The gods. Mhm.
Yes, and it had the statue of Caesar in the middle with the fountains, which you could not go up on top of that little statue thing because they had it all roped off, like do not enter. But fountains, and the kids got to play in that and splash around. We basically stayed in that one main pool that had that statue in the center, and I think that's pretty much awesome because it was all right there.
And then we ordered some poolside virgin daiquiris for the kiddos,
And a regular one for me.
Right.
Or no,
and,
I had a pina colada.
Right. But we introduced them to a big mistake to virgin daiquiris, and then they were just
slinging them down back and forth.
But, we had some cute pictures of the kids lounging with their drinks and, just living it up because we all in America have gone through some intense trauma and changes of lifestyle. And the kids especially were really champs with doing their work for online learning and really managing a very big change. And so this was the first step outside of COVID that we'd been able to make with them. And we just really wanted to do something fun, but not super expensive. And so we wrapped up our time at the pool. We got upstairs. We changed and showered pretty quickly.
Yeah, really quickly, actually, because we want to get out of there before we got booked, charged another day's worth of stay for nothing.
Right. And so, we were really grateful. As we've mentioned before, Chris and I are both members of the Caesars Rewards Entertainment Group. And because of that, we get discounts. And so for our stay at Caesars, we had this welcome back package that they're offering for Vegas. And so we got the room comped and we just paid the resort fee. And so we ended up paying $51 for our one night stay at Caesars in Vegas. And that included access to the pool. So, we did pay a decent amount for food because there weren't a lot of available options. But if you were to decide to plan something in Vegas yourself, you could, pack snacks and food for kids and really bring that cost down.
And I know you're probably wondering, how much money did we win on the roulette table? Well, let me tell you, we did not play roulette because it seemed like it was closed. It seems like all the tables were closed.
Right. But, it allowed us to really focus on the kids. And so that's what this vacation was really about.
It really, really did. So we did basically the entire time, this entire weekend, entire week in Vegas, at both locations. We didn't gamble once. It's the very first time that I've ever gone to Vegas and not gambled.
A penny, like not even
Nothing.
$1 in a slot. And so,
Weird. It was so strange.
Yeah. So we loaded up from Caesars. And when we were on the way into Vegas, Chris was like, hey, Christine, do you think that the Shelby American Museum or Shelby American store is open? And so he looked it up, and it wasn't open on the day we were coming in.
They're closed on Sundays.
Right. But they were open on Monday, which is the day we were leaving. And since we were just driving 2.5 hours for our next stop to Utah, we decided to stop, and we got to Shelby American, walked in, and the lady said a tour just started. And so we got to be part of this guided tour where they talked about the history of Shelby. And then at the end, the tail end of the tour, Chris, what did we get to do?
We got to go inside, behind the scenes, into the actual fabrication shop, the big warehouse. It's like a big factory,
Right.
where they're working on all these Shelby vehicles.
Like modifications and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
modifications to F-150s, modifications to Mustangs. Basically, for Mustangs and trucks is really what they were doing. And they have a whole team. I guess you bring your vehicle there, and they really trick it out to whatever you want.
Right. And it was completely free. We just walked in. The kids got to see these really amazing cars. They got to learn some history. They got to go into the shop. They had these metallic Sharpies, so they all got to sign their name on the wall where all of these different people have signed it that have Shelbys or that go on the tour. And then each of the kids have been saving up some of their allowance for spending money for vacation, and they got to purchase themselves a little goodie. And so Jacob bought like a little car, right?
Yeah, he bought a little toy car, I believe, a Ford GT he bought. And Mason got a hat, and he also, what else did he get? He got something else from there. I forget what it was.
That's okay, but they were excited.
And I got a few t-shirts myself. So I bought some t-shirts for myself, bought him a hat, and then from there, we loaded the car up and we headed to Utah.
Yes, we did. We were driving 2.5 hours. The main part of our trip was so that we could go to Zion National Park and take the kids hiking. And the goal was to hike the Narrows at Zion. And so what I had done is, because the hotel stays can get very expensive, and because of COVID, we wanted to make sure that we kept the family safe with cleaning procedures and everything. Found a beautiful townhome less than a mile from the entrance to the national park and rented that for 2 nights. And we didn't know exactly what to expect. We saw pictures and they looked decent. But when we showed up, we could not have asked for a better rental experience, right, Chris?
This place was amazing. There were about 6 or 8.
There were 6 units.
Six units all slammed together. They were townhouses, so it was upstairs, downstairs, sharing a common wall with the next unit. Very narrow, but very long.
Right.
So they had a little length, but not very much width to the unit, and it was completely loaded with everything. It had a washer and a dryer. It had a dishwasher fully stacked with everything, all the dishes you possibly could need. Wi-Fi in the house. It had DirecTV in the house.
Mm-hmm.
It had Netflix in the house, all on its own TV, of course. And it had, I think Prime was on there also, Amazon Prime.
And it had a back patio, and it had a second floor balcony off of the master bedroom that overlooked all of Zion Canyon, which was absolutely spectacular at sunset.
With a little table set up and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think the entire section of row homes was part of the same company, because they had this keypad.
Yeah, it was.
Keypad lock that you unlock the front door with. That's how you get in, not a
Mm-hmm.
key. And it was amazing. I would totally do it again.
Right.
I loved it.
And right across the street, literally 350 feet away from the front door of the townhome, was the little local market. And so we walked across the street, and we knew we were going to be hiking the next day, and that we wanted to pack our lunches with us because we didn't want to leave that by chance and end up going hungry, not knowing what the options were. So after we didn't actually have dinner that night because we had a really late lunch. So I walked across the street. I'd already had my grocery bags with me that I'd packed. And so I went over to the grocery store. They had a deli counter. And so we were able to get the fresh sliced turkey that Chris loves and provolone. They sold little mustard packets, so I didn't have to buy a big thing. I bought a loaf of bread. And then I got a bunch of little snacks, got some extra water bottles. And then I bought food for the next night's dinner so that we could have a pasta feed at home. And make meatballs.
Yeah, they had
and garlic bread.
Yeah, they had everything you needed right there. They had an oven. It was a full on. It was like a house, really, what it was. It's like living in somebody's house with all of the utensils and pots and pans.
But it was like brand new.
Yeah, I would say the construction on that place was probably maybe a few years ago. Maybe 2 years ago. I mean, it's like literally these places are brand. I mean, you can still see the white caulking on the walls, brand new. Like,
right. And so we got settled in. The kids were so excited, and Mason was very excited to use. He got the pull-out couch downstairs in the living room to himself. And then Jacob and Zeke shared the upstairs bedroom. And so this townhouse was 2 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and it had a queen size sofa sleeper in the living room. And it had all the extra linens and everything.
And 2 queen size beds for each room. And by the way, each room had its own bathroom.
Right.
And with a shower. So it was like 2 masters in this house. I think the house was great. Like, I would have lived in one of those if it was here.
Right.
Only thing I did not like about the house, it did not have a garage, and it did not have like a big storage area, really, or even a private backyard.
Right. But we had a reserved parking spot, and we were only there for 2 nights. So it was great. And so we got settled in that first night. We got groceries. We just got ourselves situated. And then we started staging everything for the next day, which was our big hiking day. Right, Chris?
That is right. So the next morning we get up, we get loaded, we get everything ready to go into the car, and we drive into Zion.
Well, first of all, we were supposed to take the shuttle. There's 2 different sets of shuttles. There's an in-town shuttle that takes you to the park entrance. And then there's an in-the-park shuttle. Well, our Airbnb host was so amazing. Matt is his name. He was fantastic. And he told me ahead of time that we were going to need to pre-reserve our in-the-park shuttle tickets because there was, it wasn't going to be open access. It was going to be restricted. So on like June 30th at 8 a.m., I had to get online and I had to buy our shuttle tickets for $1 each. Otherwise, we would have had to figure out how to get back to the 8 miles deep into the park to the trailhead.
That would have been impossible, by the way.
Right.
And it was, by the way, it was like 100 degrees.
Right. It was
out there. So
we walk.
We drive into.
Well, first step is we got everybody. We walked to the in-town shuttle stop, and then we see the sign that the in-town shuttles aren't working. So we hustle back. We haul it back to the car so that we could get into the park in enough time to be able to get to our shuttle stop.
So you have to pick up the shuttles. The only shuttles they had running were actually inside the park. So you have to go through like the holy gates of the park to get into the visitor center parking lot, which is a big, massive parking lot.
Right.
Big visitor center, which is basically like a gift shop, maybe some other things.
Right.
And
but to get in there,
that's that buses pick you up there. That's a bus stop.
But to get into the national park, if it's a private vehicle, you pay $35 per vehicle. But as I mentioned on a previous episode, because Jacob just finished 4th grade, we had the America the Beautiful 4th grade pass. So I just showed them the evidence of having that ticket that I'd printed out, and we got free access, and we can go to any national park through the end of August.
That is fantastic. Thank you, Jacob, for hooking us up. So we get in, we park, we find a place to park, and then we walk over to the visitor center. And that's where the buses are picking us up. We had a special time for the bus, is that right?
Right. They let us go about 15 minutes early. So we got there definitely early. Our window was from 10 to 11 to catch the first shuttle. And then you can go around the park as much as you want to. But there was reduced routes. There was reduced stops.
And reduced seating in the buses. If you remember, they took like half the seats out of the bus, which is kind of weird to look at.
And Chris and I have been on these shuttles before. So we were like, wow, this is super empty. There's only 15 people on here when normally they pack like 50.
Right. They like every other row, they just took a whole section of seats out. So imagine a regular bus, but taking a seat out, skipping a seat, taking that seat out, taking a seat, skipping it, taking it out. Right. So they did that. So we finally get on the bus. No air conditioning, by the way, but did have open windows. It had open like skylight roof things or something up there.
And the kids were looking through the windows and through the roof, and we were going through Zion Canyon all the way back to what's called the Temple of Sinawava, which is the last stop. It's the trailhead to go hike into the Narrows. And they were just looking at these huge red rock canyons, just amazed with how huge it is.
Yeah, mountains everywhere. And to put an idea of what we're talking about, the way the trail works is that stop 1 would be like the visitor center where we're parked at. And then it just goes in a single line up to the canyon to the very top to where our last stop was at. And then it goes back down to the very end.
Right, a big loop.
Mm-hmm. Well, not a loop. It just goes up and then back. Mm-hmm. So we're stop 1, and the stop we were looking for, stop 9?
Right.
Or whatever. So we
But
had
4 other stops were actually closed, and we don't know. Some of it was because of previous rock slides, and some of it was because they, like for Angel's Landing, which is one of the most popular hikes, they can't restrict the number of people, and the trails are so narrow that they can't ensure social distancing, and so they just closed it down.
Oh, man.
And so
COVID!
I know.
COVID-19, it's your fault.
But we were so grateful. We'd packed lots of water. I had a first aid kit. I found this cute little sack that I was able to purchase at the market that I could pack all of our lunches in, just, sandwiches, one big thing of chips and some little snacks, and some electrolyte packets because we knew it was going to be hot and we didn't want anybody getting dehydrated.
Yeah, it got up to 100 degrees, I think, or somewhere, maybe
Right.
110. I don't know, something like that. It's hot,
But we started out at 9:45. We finally got to the trailhead at like 10:15, and it was pretty sparse at first. There wasn't a ton of people.
No, and also there wasn't a ton of heat either, if you remember. It was
Right.
warm, but it didn't feel like 100-degree warm.
Right, because it wasn't quite noon yet. The sun hadn't peaked over the top of the canyon. Because if you think about it, when the sun it comes over in that noon, that 12 o'clock sun goes directly on top of a canyon, then it's just direct heat with no shade.
Right.
But by starting out early, it was kind of behind one of the canyon walls a little bit. And so we could hike through and it wasn't as intense yet.
That's right. So we finally get to the trail and we start hiking. We start doing our thing. We start chugging along and we start taking pictures and video. And we finally, with the trail, finally comes to, because the trail really, it's more like a sidewalk really than it is a serious trail. It's pretty paved. It's pretty easy to walk on.
Well, it wasn't paved. It was still dirt. It was just like packed dirt. But yeah, it did have like guides along the way, like little guideposts. And it's not intense. It's a mile in, but then the trail ends at the 1 mile mark and it ends at the river.
So you get to the river. That's where you get wet and you start to hike into the water. Now the water isn't very deep. It's maybe like an ankle.
It goes
depth.
anywhere from ankle to knee high, and the part where Chris stopped was where it went to chest high.
Right. And I'm like, I'm not getting my phone wet for this. My keys or anything else.
But this had been on my vision board for over 2 years, where I really desired to go hike the Narrows at Zion. It's just so beautiful, and I'd seen pictures of it. And I don't know if you've ever had one of those things where you just wanted to do it. And I really wanted to experience it with Chris. And when we went to Zion the first time, it was too close to springtime because we did go in like April and the spring waters were too high and the Narrows were too swift that it was flash flood warning.
Right, because you are physically walking in the river. You are walking through the river, and we had all of us, including the little kids, with their walking sticks and their water walking shoes, and they all jumped into the water and we started hiking up the Narrows.
Right. So shout out to Big Five. Not that they're a sponsor. This isn't an ad. This is just our personal experience that they had some great summer sales and we were able to score these hiking water shoes that are closed-toed because that's important when you're hiking over rocks. And they had their extendable walking sticks on sale. So each of us had a walking stick so that we could help make our way through the water. And I tried to think of like everything we could need to keep the kids safe so that we would have a great experience. And it was just such an amazing adventure to walk through. I mean, you're walking through a river and it doesn't seem like it might be that big of a deal. But what we got to watch was our kids really pushing themselves further, overcoming obstacles, and then little Mason like pushing up against the current and being so determined to do everything that the big boys were doing and by himself.
That's right. That's right. He was doing that. He was doing a fantastic job. Both of the little kids fell into the water at least once, I believe.
And Zeke did too.
Oh, Zeke fell over. I didn't catch that, but I know Mason, he was playing around. He almost caught himself from falling a few times, but then eventually did fall over because it does get kind of wobbly because you're walking across these rocks because the entire floor of the river, it's just rocks. So if you ever walk across a bunch of rocks of all shapes and sizes, you know that they're like not smooth surfaces. You're constantly, your feet sliding from one end to the other.
And some of them had moss on them, so they were slippery.
And of course, it's all underwater, so it really is slippery. And they got these shoes on, so you're trying to navigate that. Plus, the current is pushing you against you. You're trying to go against the current. It's pushing you. You're trying to walk with this walking stick, push it in the ground, hold on to it, make sure it doesn't fall over. You don't fall over, and walk through the river,
Right.
to the canyon, and it was starting to get kind of crowded as we were there. But it was also, I noticed, it was much cooler there than it was, say, other parts of the park.
Right. And so we made it about 0.6 of a mile into the river, and we stopped at this beautiful little waterfall that the boys found around one of the last curves that we went through. We could have gone on forever. That river hiking trail goes 16 miles deep.
It does?
Yeah, it goes to the other end.
Do people actually walk all that? Or
Yeah,
what?
and people will do the opposite. They'll go through the back countryside on the north side and hike all the way down and end it at the shuttles.
Through the river the whole time?
Yeah, they'll do that.
Wow.
Yeah, with their like hiking sacks and things like that, and sometimes like camp off to the side. You always have to make sure there's no warning of flash floods because that place can flood. It's a canyon and there's
Right.
really no side. So the water level was pretty low and there was some dry patches where we could walk on the side a little bit.
Right.
But for the most part, imagine these gigantic red canyons on either side and you're literally walking through a river.
Right, like kind of like the Colorado, like the Grand Canyon.
Right. That's why they call it the Narrows, because there is no trail. You're walking through these narrow parts of the river and it gets narrower as you go through, and they call those slot canyons.
Is that where it's like one person at a time go through kind of a thing?
You could probably go like 2 or 3 wide, but it does get a lot narrower. And so the water level gets higher because there's less area. And so, the further you go, that can be more difficult. But we turned around and came back. And I think that we finished hiking around 2.
I was thinking about doing another hike, but these kids and everybody was so exhausted. By then, it was getting like about 1 o'clock, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was probably like 100, 110 degrees.
And we'd already hiked 5 miles.
And so everybody was like, "We are done. We are beat. Let's just go back to the townhouse, get back to the car, go back home, and let's just take a nap because we were so tired."
And so we did. We all went back, and I kind of kept track of the kiddos while they were goofing around, whatever. And then we did a spaghetti feed that night. So spaghetti and meatballs and garlic bread and asparagus and carrots. And then we had ice cream bars for dessert. And then Chris and I ended our last night in Zion. We put the kids to bed. We grabbed a couple of Utah microbrew beers from that small grocery store. And
in a can.
Right. And we sat out on our second floor patio and just watched the constellations and these beautiful stars. And I even got to see 3 shooting stars. And we just kind of caught up and talked about just life and our journey. And it was just such a sweet time. I think the whole vacation was wonderful. I loved that, like sitting under the stars with you and like sharing an adult beverage and just knowing that our kids had had this great experience, and Jacob was begging to go back again. He's
Was he? I didn't hear that.
Oh yeah. Because he hiked with me in the water, and he's like, "So can we this is so cool. Can we come back here like maybe when Mason's in 4th grade and we can get in for free?"
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
It was so cute. I loved it.
That's awesome. I love that. I love hearing that the kids had a good time on the trip that we were on.
Right.
It means the world to me, because if they were like, "Oh, it was okay, it was kind of dumb, whatever," that'll break my heart.
So then the next day we packed up. We had to be out of the townhouse by 10. But one of the things that I remembered when we drove into town is that the boys saw these gem stores.
Like a rock store.
Right. But
like
they call themselves the Gem Boys because Jacob, Ezekiel, Mason, the Gem Boys, and that's the name of their podcast. And growing up, when my parents would go on trips or they'd take us on trips, we'd always be able to stop and get like a little souvenir. And we wanted the boys to be able to take something back for their mom, and for Zeke to be able to take something back for his dad and his grandmas. And so we stopped and we let them look through this gem store, this gemstone store. And it was so cool, right, Chris?
Yeah, it had everything you can possibly think of for sale, like gem-related stuff. Like, I don't know nothing about rocks. I'm not a rock person. What do they call it? Gemologist, I guess. I am not that kind of person, so I don't know nothing about that stuff, but it all looked pretty neat to me. They had little figures cut different ways, different things, and different rocks, and different this and that, and the kids like going through there and doing things. But the funny thing is that all the gems of all the stuff you can look at, the one thing that Mason wanted to buy in the entire store
is a wood-carved slingshot.
Yeah, a slingshot.
And he's like, "I have my own money." And we're like, "No, you're not getting a slingshot." "But I'm not going to shoot people." And we're like, "Well, we can't guarantee that." "Well, I'm only going to shoot things."
Like the window,
what,
like the
Mason?
windows.
Like animals? Like what? No. I'll just pretend shoot. So
Pretend
no.
shoot.
So they each got something little. Mason got these 2 little magnets that he's been obsessed with.
They were rock magnets.
Right.
They were
Rock
black.
magnets,
Yeah.
like obsidian looking kind of stuff. And then Jacob got an arrowhead. And then they bought their mom a beautiful druzy quartz necklace that she loved. And Ezekiel got these 2 hunks of gemstone. One is red and one is clear. And he's convinced that it's a gigantic ruby and a gigantic diamond.
There you go. For
Yep.
him, it is.
Yep.
For him, it is. Just don't try to trade it in on the market. You know?
So then we decided to drive into Vegas, where we were stopping again overnight. And I was so excited because my best friend was driving down, who I hadn't seen in 16 months, with her 4 kids who had never met our kids, and she'd never met Chris. And we were all going to be staying in 2 rooms side by side at the Mandalay Bay Resort.
Actually, not at the Mandalay Bay.
It was at the resort.
But the Mandalay Bay's side hotel called
the Delano is
the
an
Del-
all suite.
the Delano. It's like their special VIP hotel attached to the hotel.
But again, I signed up for the M Life Rewards, which is MGM's rewards program, and they also were having their Welcome Back Vegas package. And I was able to score 2 queen suites. So there's 2 queen beds plus a living room and all of that kind of stuff. And it was like $60 a night and plus tax. And my best friend Kira and her family drove down the 6.5 hours. Her husband wasn't able to join us, but they arrived, and Chris was so gracious and took all of us out on that very first night because they got there late. We couldn't go to the pool. Or we did go to the pool for a little bit, right?
Yeah,
like
we
an
did.
hour.
We caught the pool before they closed, and this was not like Caesars where they actually like locked it down and said only like you had to wait an hour to get in. Theirs was pretty much walk right in. I think we were as you're walking in, it was like 5:30.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And they said, by the way, they're closing at 6.
Instead of 8.
And I'm like, what? Closing at 6? So we get there and we're like, well, let's do a couple things, jump in the pool, get wet, whatever. And then we were there, and then we went into the Lazy River section, and I believe they let us in, which I was kind of worried they were going to let us in. And we got in there, and they said they're going to like close down certain attractions of the pool at certain times.
Right.
So the Lazy River was like one of the last things that closed down, and we were like literally, and I mean literally, the last people to leave
Right.
the pool because everybody else left, and we were the last ones there leaving. They closed everything down, and we're just loading up and getting out of there.
Yeah, because we were trying to figure out what do we do for dinner? Do we all pack up and leave? Which packing up 7 kids total between the 2 families and trying to find a place to go and eat seemed like an overwhelming feat. And so as we were walking back to go change, I remembered that there was a House of Blues restaurant there, and it was actually open. They had a kids menu. It looked great. And they let us put our name on the list. But the thing is, in Nevada, like in California, there's rules about groups eating together. You couldn't have more than 6 people at a table. And so we had to split up the party. And so we went and got dressed, got everybody ready, and we made the bold decision to let the 4 older boys, which they are 15, 11, 10, and 8, have their own table at the restaurant in Vegas.
No, but they were running the show over there, ordering pitchers of drinks. I mean, not beer, but like soda. Like soda and whatever they wanted. They ordered whatever they wanted, you know, and they all, I guess they took care of themselves. They were kind of just adjacent from us, like just another level above us where our
Right.
table was sitting. They were just behind us up a little flight of stairs, like just up a little railing above us. So we could keep an eye on them for the most part, really.
Right. But it gave us an opportunity to visit with Kira, and we had the 3 little ones with us, and they were great. And then the next morning, we woke up early, and the boys were ready to go. Our 3 boys were ready to go to the pool. And then we took Kira's oldest, his name is Caden, down to the pool with us. And then Kira and the little ones joined us shortly after. We got late checkout again, so the kids were able to play for several hours. And of course, we had to round out vacation with ordering another round of virgin daiquiris and virgin
Throwing those
pina
things on back.
coladas.
Just throw them on back, kids. All the kids were just throwing those things back. And we had that. We did that. We played in the Lazy River. They played in the big giant wave machine pool they have there at Mandalay Bay. It's a big giant like wave machine. It looks like a beach. The whole resort's supposed to be like this Caribbean beach like vibe or
Right.
something. So it makes you feel like you're on the beach when you're there. And actually the pool chairs, the lounge chairs, the deck chairs are in sand, like beach sand.
Right.
They don't have a normal like beach deck, like regular pool deck. It's all beach sand. So they call it the beach, really.
Right. They call it the Mandalay Bay Beach. And so we got done. We got late checkout, and when we got to our room, we had 40 minutes to pack. Shower.
Are you sure it was 40? I think it was like 20.
No, it was 40 because we got in there at 11:20. I checked, and then you took a quick shower while I was getting the kids packed, and then I ran in and took a quick shower. Then we had to rush, and had to get the bellhop up to help us unload both sets of stuff from both bedrooms or from both suites and get out of there. And then we decided to go to the big In-N-Out Burger and have lunch all together.
Right. And luckily for us, we found seats inside that place because they were doing the same thing too. Every other seat was closed off. You can sit here, you can sit there. So we got in. It was great. And inside the parking lot, my little special treat for me and the kids was there was parked a Lamborghini, a brand new Lamborghini was in there parked, and the guy revved it to kind of give the kids a little taste of what it's like. Check this car out, a $300,000 car or whatever it is.
Right.
But so after we did lunch there, we went back in the cars and we went our separate ways, right?
No, we went to the New York.
Oh, that's right. I totally forget. That's why I need to write this stuff down. We drove over to the New York hotel.
We had been promising the kids since we started the vacation that the very last day that we would take them to the roller coaster at the New York. And so like that dinner the night before, we told them it's an earned privilege to have your own big boy table, but the privilege you'll lose if you choose not to abide by the rules is being able to go on the coaster tomorrow. And so they were like trying to be on their best behavior. And then we got to the New York, and I went up to purchase the tickets, and they said that the height restriction is now 54 inches.
I think it's always been 54 inches.
I thought it was 48 before.
Well, I know that poor little Mason, he wanted to go on the ride so bad, and he was not tall enough to ride. He missed it by a good 5 inches, I think.
Right. But then Sophia, Kira's oldest daughter, missed it by a quarter of an inch.
Right. She couldn't go on it either. So those kids, so the big boys got to go in line, and I waited in line with them to go and ride the ride. I didn't ride the ride, but I waited in line with them. Make sure not, keep in check. You know what I'm saying?
And so then I took the other kids, and I was like, I'm not going to let this be a downer for them. We're going to play. There's a huge arcade there. And it's like the Big Apple Arcade, I think is what they call it. And so I went over and got, it was pretty reasonable, some credits on their little game cards, and let those kids, all the little kids, get some games in. And so then the big boys, when they got done with their 2 rides on the coaster, they came and they were like, where's our tickets? And I said, nope, this is Mason and Sophia and Scarlett and Cody's fun time. You guys got the roller coaster.
Twice, by the way.
Right. They got the games. And so after that, when the kids wrapped it up, then it was really time to part ways because Chris was brilliant because now...
Well, thank you for... Say it one more time, please.
Chris is brilliant.
Thank you.
Because in California, while we were gone, all barbershops and salons and all types of things closed down. And Chris was counting on getting a haircut back in California. So he found... What'd you find?
Well, I Googled supercuts near me, and there was about 10 that popped up. So basically, I called one, nobody answered. So I called another one that was close by and asked them, hey, do you guys take an appointment? Can we get an appointment for 3 of us at 3 o'clock? And they said, yeah, we can set that up. So sure enough, we make sure we hightailed out of there to make our 3 o'clock appointment at the Supercuts somewhere. I forget where it was, but
right, it was off the strip.
No, definitely way off the strip. Really, it was way off the strip.
And so then I dropped Chris and the boys off, and I said, "Okay, I promised Zeke that he could get his dad a souvenir because he still hadn't found anything. So I'm going to take him. So text me a couple minutes before you're done, and I'll come back and get you." And so I drive off with Zeke, and we're looking all around this off strip area for souvenir shops. There is nothing. Literally nothing. Not even just clothes.
We were on the wrong side of the tracks. That's why we're on the not so Vegas part of Vegas.
Right. So to find a souvenir shop, I had to drive all the way back to the strip, and then there's no parking right there. So I ended up saying to Zeke, "Okay, I'm going to drop you right here. Do you have your location services on? Is your phone on? I'm going to circle around, and I'll be back in 10 minutes." So I dropped Zeke off. He goes inside of the store, and then I'm trying to make the loop to get back to him, and there's no U-turns allowed. There's only right turns allowed. And now I'm like, how am I going to get to him? So I was like, okay, I know where the Planet Hollywood is, and I think he was close to that. So I'm going to get back there. And then it made me get to a spot that was 1 block north of where he was. So then I had to figure out how to go back around.
Oh, no.
And as I'm trying to navigate this, Chris calls and he's like, okay, we're done. We're ready to be picked up. Are you on your way? And I was like,
well, and the salon, they said you could not sit, and they had this rule that you could not stand or sit inside their store. Like they had a bench there. I said, do not sit on it, please. I asked her, could the kids sit down? They said, yeah. And they said, no, they cannot sit down because if case the whoever's in charge of
like the health department.
Yeah, health department or whatever, they come by and they see that there's somebody waiting in the place they're not supposed to be waiting, they could get fined or whatever.
Right.
So that's why I was like, okay, we'll leave. And then I'm like, Christine, where are you? Because we can't wait anywhere.
And it's 113 outside.
Right, and we're baking here. So I went back into the store and I asked the lady, can we please just stand in the corner? We won't sit down just until a ride shows up because it's 100 and whatever it is outside. And she was nice enough to let us stay inside there.
Right.
But,
and so I finally got Zeke and I was like, babe, be by the curb. I'm going to put my blinker on. You hop in and then we got to take off. And so then I was like super stressed, but I ended up getting Chris and the boys and ended up getting Zeke his little souvenir for his dad. And then we loaded up. We went and we got gas. We got some food for the ride home, I think. And then or maybe we didn't even get food.
No, we stopped at Victorville, remember, for the outdoor restaurant.
Oh. So we were driving. We were driving for several hours because it's about a 4.5, 5 hour trip home. And we're looking for food. And again, since we had been gone, all California restaurants had closed.
Well, they closed their inside
dining.
So a lot of restaurants have figured this out. Since they don't have a patio, they took like half the parking lot and made it like a makeshift dining room with a canopy set up with weights that don't blow over and tables out there and a full-on like dining room in the parking lot.
Right, under a canopy, except there was high winds.
Right.
Yeah, but we had a great dinner, and then I was supposed to log into my class that night, and I'm trying to log in, and of course the technology doesn't work, and it was just like chaos. And then I was like, you know what? My professor had already said I could just watch the recording. I'm just going to choose to be here with the family. And
well, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. Yeah.
So
we had dinner at this what place
Carino's.
Called? Carino's.
Italian.
There you go. We all had pizza for the most part and
calzone and spaghetti.
Yeah, basic stuff or whatever. So we had that, ate that, got back in the car. I drove the rest of the way and we got us home as quick as we could. And we got in kind of late still. And then the kids,
like 10:15, 10:30.
Yeah, and then the kids were cranky, of course, because they're all passed out, waking them up, get them unloaded, get everything unloaded, and then get them into bed. And then all that stuff, and then wake up, and then ta-da!
And then it was Friday, and so we spent yesterday just getting caught up on loads of laundry, which we didn't have as much as we could have had because we washed stuff when we were in Utah. But, it did take a good 3 or 4 loads to get caught up. And, all that to say, like, I told Chris before we went and before we even planned this that I grew up going on family road trips and I was never able to take Zeke. And it was really important to me that he have that same kind of experience. Something that in my previous relationship, my previous partner was not okay with us doing.
That's weird. They was not okay with doing that.
Right, he wanted to do like the regular, like go stay at hotels and be pampered kind of vacations.
Well, our trip this week was kind of like that.
Right. But, we normally would like not drive as far or whatever. But I grew up where we would go on 2-week family road trips. And those are some of the best memories. And so, even though we had all of these little bumps in the road and it was like sometimes super stressful, I will say that I will remember this forever because we got to do something that I had always hoped I'd be able to do with my family. And it wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for you.
Oh, really? For me?
Yeah.
Gee, wow. Thank you so much.
I mean, it's a group effort, right? And
I know it totally is.
I know it was not restful. It was a go kind of trip. But I know that for our boys, these types of memories are the things that are helping us to really build our bond as a family unit.
That's right. And if you want to see some clips or highlights, video of this fantastic trip we went on, I just posted the YouTube video of the trip, and it is on our website, which is www.chrisandchristineshow.com. And that is Chris and Christine Show with a K, of course, .com. And you can see the video from the trip is on the website.
Yeah, and it's a good length of a video, and you'll enjoy it.
This episode is a good length of a podcast.
Right. But you'll get to see the things that we talked about, the highlights of like seeing Mason overcome these currents and really working hard to accomplish his goals within this little river and all of the different parts of the adventure that we got to go on. And so we wanted to share this with you as an encouragement because we know that, as I mentioned, with COVID and everything, we've been in a really difficult season. And I feel like this is the beginning of our COVID comeback tour.
Amen, sister. I love it. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening and sticking with us. We really appreciate you. And this bonus episode was fantastic.
It was fantastic.